Ladies and gentlemen, friends and families, I had a problem in which I got cut off due to a phone issue, a phone matter, a phone problem. And so there was a distortion, and this will appear, I guess, two parts, but no problem. Here I go. On inclusive governance. That is where I ended. PPP leader JAGDEO gave a real politic response. JAGDEO contends that he cannot accept dialogue with the PNC because it is questionable that Granger and Harmon are the recipients of majority wish in the PNC. I'm repeating again. JAGDEO contends that he cannot accept dialogue with the PNC because it is questionable that Granger and Harmon are the recipients of majority wish in the PNC. He pointed out to the dispute between PNC with its chairman, VOLDA Lawrence, who is in fact the elected deputy to Granger and not Harmon. Harmon told JAGDEO that what goes on inside the PNC is none of his business. JAGDEO persisted with his real politic position that an agenda with inclusive politics in it with Harmon and Granger could be a leadership ploy. Is JAGDEO's strategy correct? The answer is yes. For one central reason. If the PNC leadership has factions vying for positions that could see the removal of both Granger and Harmon, then the inclusive agenda could put Lawrence at a disadvantage. The anti-Lawrence faction could claim plaudits from PNC constituencies, putting them in an advantageous position for when the warfare heats up. One could go back to the competition for leadership between Granger, Faith Harding, and Carl Greenwich in 2010 during Robert Corbyn's captaincy of the PNC. Now, you have to be careful, This is a political, amazing action in place. So I was saying, JAGDEO is a real tactician, and he's no joke of a person to contend with in modern politics internationally, and even particularly here in the Caribbean and Guyana. Corbyn was, according to him, according to FREDDIE, KISSON'S, Corbyn was promoting books that Granger wrote and highlighting other things about Granger. Harding took umbrage at Corbyn's attitude because she said it puts Granger in the limelight that could influence the way delegates would vote. Because of those actions by Corbyn and Granger beat the nearest rival. Carl Greenwich, who lived 20 years out of the country after 1992 by 12 votes, so he lost by 12 votes. Harding went to her grave contending that the 2010 leadership contest was rigged in favor of Granger. JAGDEO is not a silly leader, according to FREDDIE KISSON'S. Obviously, he knew how Granger clinched his apex position in 2010, and he probably feels Granger is trying a thing. If JAGDEO had swallowed debate, Lawrence would have been devoured. JAGDEO posits that the PNC leadership contents, that the PNC leadership contest is coming up, and any inclusive pathway should wait until a definitive leader of the PNC emerges. Lawrence's demotion as opposition leader will surely have consequences. It has never happened before in Guyanese politics, except in one circumstance. Desmond Hoyt's expulsion of Hamilton Green. That is the one example. In the case of JAGDEO's elevation over long-serving stalwarts, that is not similar to what happened to Green and Lawrence. In the situation with JAGDEO, it wasn't PPP leader Janet Jagan who ruled on her own that JAGDEO be made president. A number of stalwarts couldn't agree among themselves, so JAGDEO emerged as the consensus candidate. The confrontation between Green and Hoyt is identical with Granger and Lawrence. Granger may research the stratagems Hoyt used to get rid of Green. I believe the PNC in the coming months will see a replica of the Green-Hoyt war. Friends and families, ladies and gentlemen, this will be quite an interesting thing happening. Green contended that Hoyt sold out black people by agreeing to free and fair election through the pressure of a white American, Jimmy Carter. Green then went around Guyana, badmouthing Hoyt with the intention of removing him. Hoyt used the colossal one-man structure of political parties in Guyana to expel Green. These things are good for the movies, you know, political style movies, ladies and gentlemen. Lawrence has used the same argument that Green intervened against Hoyt. The explicit expression in the PNC and AFC was that they will not demit office despite sanctions, and pressed the international community to secure exigent dialogue for inclusive governance. But on the last day of July, Pompeo called Granger, read the riot act to him, and Granger found himself facing the very book Lawrence had in her hand that Green threw at Hoyt. What is the difference, ladies and gentlemen, according to Freddie Kisso'n, between the fight of Green and Hoyt and Lawrence and Granger? Green has used extreme vocabularies over a period of time to denounce Hoyt. Lawrence has not done that. Oh, she's much more tactical, you know, and she's an old friend, you know, of ours, my family. Secondly, by the time Hoyt was ready to guillotine Green, the PNC that Green owned and controlled was gone. From 1986, Hoyt deburnamized the PNC. So Green had lost all his crude, his quality oil, so to say, ladies and gentlemen. You know, this politics thing is a lot of fun. Unfortunately, when I'm reading, some people who are maniacs in politics get upset because they have some biases. But I'm having fun with them. He lost all his crude. Cruel underlings that did his dirty work for him. This is the opposite in the current PNC. So the underlings or the crude of the PNC for Green, Hoyt had eliminated them. Right? This is the opposite in the current PNC. The PNC under Granger is the same PNC that Lawrence had enormous influence in long before 2010. Granger does not have the reach in the totality of PNC delegates to call a leadership confabulation and oust Lawrence. So even if Granger wants, even though he's the so-called de facto leader of the PNC, he can't oust Lawrence because he doesn't have that meat in place, the crude, so to say. On the contrary, if the leadership meeting is called, and if it is free and fair, Lawrence is going to beat any PNC bigwig that challenges her, including Granger and Harmon. Well, you know, I will support her any day. I will give her whatever physical, mental support I can give Lawrence, because she is my baby, even though she made some big mistakes prior to the election and the count and so on. But that's nothing. That's all politics. At the moment, guerrilla warfare is spreading inside the PNC. And Lawrence has escaped some snipers on the rooftop because JAGDEO saved her. She lives to fight another day. So he is saying that actually, he is saying that she is got saved by Dr. Bharat Jagdeo, political tactician and articulator in political thought, wisdom, and smartness in Guyana. Friends and families, listen, this is not a time for us anymore to be fighting. Let me make it quite clear that that insurrection that started again recently in Bobis, that was calculatedly called for. And generally it's the work of one man with some of his underlings or some of his war dogs to try to create mayhem and again create a civil war. But again, the government of the day, President Dr. Irfan Ali and his tactical leadership ensured that they did not retaliate in a way to create a civil-style war or bitterness and allow them to fall on the wayside. Again, it was one hand with the Public Service Union trying to entice and excite the nurses. Eventually, what I observe is the president and his government and the tacticians allow them to call their bluff, and they fell apart and came up with an idea that they will wait for 2 weeks. So in reality, they know also that the government had put things in place, this is my viewpoint now, to bring in some foreign nurses from foreign countries, not to eliminate our nurses, but to give them the rest while they strike, so that our system will not be left hanging, desperate, and wanting in the medical field where people's life will be jeopardized. I think also the power of the leader of the Public Service Union, Patrick Yard, was highly questioned. And he realized, his advisors gave him some sense to realize what they're doing is going to bring great hardship, not only upon Guyana and the nurses, and upon poor people, and upon sick people and sick Guyanese, and that they are going to lose their currency and their power and their name and their reputation and their honor and their dignity, because the whole Caribbean and the world will come down against him and them, that they decided to come out a bit sweet. And the Minister of Health, the Honorable Frank Anthony, rightfully, smartly, brilliantly acceded, accepted, and said that they are going to work things out according to what my suggestion originally was, stage by stage, brilliantly, albeit for better Guyana, and also professionalism of our nurses. Friends and families, your brother Guyana, for you in the diaspora, Guyanese around the world, and this is RK's Guyana Free Media. I'm saying thank you for tuning in, my dear beloved friends and families, and farewell, friends.